Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. Looking at the NBA on Monday here, coming off 2 straight winning nights in the NBA. First time we've done that in about 10 or 11 days. So feeling like the hot streak is about to kick off, and we're about to see some nice wins as we get into the playoffs coming up in a couple weeks. So just in time for that, I am going to be giving you guys a chance to jump into the VIP with a nice discount if you want to get in there for the playoff run. So I'm going to share that with you here in just a minute. Also want to go through how we did on Sunday. Really nice night there. Like I said, 4-2. So we're going to go over those picks and how those results went. Also want to make sure that we get into the 6 picks that I've got here. I've got 6 leans on the card for Monday on the slate there. No bets down just yet, not getting into any overnight stuff, always betting the day of, and plenty of injury news that's still going to come out. So we'll wait on some of that tomorrow for tomorrow's slate as well. So if that all sounds good, give this video a like. Let's get right into it. 4-2 plus 1.7 units on the day. And after a tough losing streak for a good amount of March, I should say, I'm not taking anything for granted. 1.7 units. We are happy to take that and ride. Up 34.8 units on the season now. And like I told you a couple shows ago, what we're doing here is talking about which bets are deserved, which bets are undeserved in terms of the results, both whether it was a deserved loss or a deserved win. So everything kind of lined up here. 5 deserved bets, 1 that I'm going to call undeserved. And we'll go into those real quick. The winners. 4 winners that we had there. Dyson Daniels on the Hawks, really nice over, has played really well against the Bucks and continues to have really good matchups in those games. Was playing, I thought maybe without Karis LeVert, but he still ended up playing and he still went cleanly over. So shout out to Dyson Daniels for another big game against the Bucks, his 3rd really, really nice game against them this season. Ryan Rollins, he's been starting in place of Dame. He had 17 PRA at the half, ended with 19. So you can call this a little bit lucky, but I think the read was there. The blowout just happened, right? They lost by like 20 plus points, and that led to a lot of the backups coming in and guys like Ryan Rollins not getting their full slate of minutes, still got us there. So grateful for the youngster there. Shaedon Sharpe went clean over his points, really loves playing the Knicks, in part because they can't stop anything he wants to do. They're not good above the break. They're not good against guys that are primary ball handlers, and they're not good against guys driving to the rim because their rim protection is weak right now and mid at best even when Mitch Robb is out there for them. So love taking athletes that can shoot against the Knicks who are obviously can dribble and drive to the hoop as well. And then the Buddy Hield win there as well, over 9.5 points. We got that because we knew that this was going to be a blowout, right? It was the Spurs on a back-to-back. It was the Dubs getting their guys back and them really wanting to play well early. That's what we were banking on for the Dubs, was that guys like Buddy were going to get a lot of time in the second half. And that's when he scored 14 of his points. He had 5 at the half, 14 in the second half because that game ended up going, 40-point blowout, right? So that ended up being the reason guys like Buddy play. And we know that Buddy Hield does really well in games where the Dubs win by double digits or more. That's where he's averaging a ton of points, and that's why we liked him in this eventual blowout against the Spurs. Quentin Post was a similar look, and he actually had 7 PR at the half, ended with 8 on the game. Didn't score in the second half, only had the 1 board in the second half. Tough break. Honestly, that's the one that I don't think was deserved. I really think we should have gotten that one there. The Josh Hart, though, that one on the double-double, that one is deserved as a loss, in my opinion, because I should have just gone with the rebounds and assists or points, rebounds, and assists. He hit all of it. We talked about it on the live show on Sunday that Josh Hart was going to be a great play. I got a little bit greedy there for the plus 130 when I could have just taken over 15.5 rebounds and assists, which was the bet that I had, the lean that I had from the live show. Didn't come through with it, but still feel really good about the day. Like I said, not taking any W's for granted anymore. So if you do want to get in, I'm still celebrating. 2 days is the code. If you use code 2 days when you sign up for that VIP Discord to get all the picks that I'm making, plus access to the chat as well, which has a lot of good looks coming out every single day. I've been taking some of the looks from the chat as well. So really grateful for everyone who's participating in there as we all help each other out. So if you do want to jump in, 2 days is the code that gets you 50% off for the first 2 months that you're in there. So that'll take you through basically into the second round of the playoffs if you're interested in joining up. So hope to see you guys in there, but let's go ahead and get into everything I've got here for Monday. As always, going to be using Props Madness on the show. If you are interested in jumping into the best sports betting research tool available for hoops, bar none, this is it. So use code LYB. You'll get 7 free days off your first 7 free days. The first 7 days will be free, right? Get a little trial. Make sure you like it. And then you'll go ahead and get 25% off your first month when you use that code as well. Happy to answer any of the questions that you guys might have about this platform, as it is the #1 stop shop Don't need anything else when I'm going into stuff here. Most of the time, I'm just using props madness. But I'm going to get into the first look I have here, which is Domas Sabonis on the Kings. Let us down big time on Saturday with the hook there. They lost by 30, so that was tough. But I'm going to the boards this time for Domas, and you can actually still get 12.5. That number is just plain too low. You're going to lose me at 13.5 because I don't even know. This might be a blowout again, to be honest. The Pacers playing much better than the Kings, who have been awful on defense and in general, just not good with this crop of players. And Domas definitely suffering a ton as a result of their inability to stay in games. Last game ended with 14, so we're not touching the points. I like the boards at the 12.5. Like I said, first of all, he's at 14 on the season, so 12.5, just too low for what we should be expecting from him day in and day out when he plays this year, right? The other thing here is this Pacers team is awful, limiting rebounds to centers. They are 8th worst in terms of limiting rebounds to the center position. Domas, they got blown out in this last game that they played earlier this year. Domas played 31 minutes in the 27-point blowout and got 28 rebound chances for 21 boards in that game. I expect him to just completely gobble up Miles Turner once again. That's what we expect him to do in this game. And even though there could be a blowout that would keep him from getting, say, 34, 35 minutes like we would normally see him play, I still think if you pull up the minutes here for him and you look at this at like 28 to 32 and assume that he's going to get way fewer than he normally does because of the blowout, right? Just assume that that's the case. He's still at 13 boards per game, and this is still a massively plus matchup. Like I said, only played 31 in the last game, and the only teams he's going under against, even at 12.5, and this is at 13.5, excuse me. But if you look at this at 12.5, or no, this is at 12.5. But if you look at this at 12.5 for him on the boards here, you're going to get a really good number. So I'm going to keep going for rebounds for him, even in games where I think the Kings might not be able to hang. This is going to be one of those games. So we're looking at a nice rebounding opportunity for him against the Pacers. One more note I want to bring up, if you guys are looking at props for the Pacers players against this Kings team, the Kings have been one of the worst defenses in the league, like I said, basically for the last 15 games or so, and very much so on the three-point line, especially. That's where they've been awful. They are allowing the highest three-point percentage to their opponents in the last 15 games and the third most makes from deep. That includes to most positions like shooting guard, small forward, center. All three of those positions are in the top 5, or I should say the Kings are in the bottom 5, limiting threes to all those positions. So basically anybody other than the primary ball handler, right? For the Pacers, that would be Tyrese Halliburton. That's actually a spot they haven't been that bad because Keon Ellis is going to come out there and has been starting in place of Malik Monk, which has helped their defense a ton. And that's why guys like Tyrese Halliburton, who are point guards and they're on ball, they don't score nearly as well as guys against the Kings who are off ball. Spot up shooters. Obviously, we know that this team has been one of the worst spot up shooting defenses in the league here. If we look at guys like Nembhard, who is scoring a decent amount off the spot up, this team is dead last. The Kings are, and they've been that bad the whole season. They've been especially that bad in the last 15 games. This is a really good opportunity to take guys for threes, like preferably Obi Toppin, maybe Aaron Nesmith. Those are the types of players that I think are going to get some pretty good looks from 3. Guys coming off the bench, probably going to have some big games too, as I do think the Pacers are going to handle business pretty well against the Kings on Monday. Scrolling down to the Heat and the Wizards. If you're getting anything out of this, go ahead and give this video a like. Much appreciated. Goes a long way to support the channel here. But let's get into the Heat and Wizards for 1 second. Cannot trust the Wiz. Honestly, can't really trust the Heat. And in this game, I'm going right to Bam Adebayo, and I'm looking at an under, which sounds crazy because this is the worst defense against centers, as we know, and has been for a while. But you can still get 35.5 for Bam on the PRA, and I just think that's too good of an under when I don't think he's going to need to play that many games. First of all, in the last few, look at the PRA here over the course of basically March, since he had this hot streak right here. We come back since this Bulls game, really in the last, the last 11 games or so, things have not been nearly as good for Bam. Let's give him the last 12 games since that Bulls one. He's at 28.7 PRA. That's number one. A big reason for that is going to be the rebounds have gone way down because he's not playing center by himself. Now he's got Kel'el Ware playing center, and Bam has been pushed to the 4. So he's not really guarding the bigs that are playing close to the basket anymore. He's guarding other guys. In this game, like maybe he's guarding Alex Sarr, but if he is, then he's not really close to the basket to get those rebounds, right? If he's guarding anybody else out there, like Justin Champagny, who will be there 4, then he, once again, not going to be playing close to the basket. This is going to be a much more of a spread offense for this Wizards team anyway. So don't worry too much. It's going to scare you. If you look at the PRA and you go to head-to-head, You're going to be like, why in the world would you ever take an under on 35.5 on the PRA for him? And it's because of the minutes. He played 31 in each of these two games, and I got to project him for lower than that in a game that I think they're going to blow them out. So if we give Bam, let's say 28 to 32 minutes, and we project him for about 30 or 31, this is why I like this, right? If we take him and go 28 to 32, and we look at all the games that he's played that amount of minutes, let's get as many in there as we have. He's played 15 games of 28 between 28 and 32 minutes. And in those games, he has averaged 29.9 PRA per game, going under in 11 of the 15 games. So I think this is going to be a minutes thing for him. Granted, it still scares you because he had 39 in the 31 minutes and 48 in 31 minutes. But that was different times of the season for sure. In this game as well, missing Andrew Wiggins, who will be missing in this one. But again, I just think he's not going to need to play that much. They won by 16 in that last game. I think they're good to win this one closer to like 20-25. So I'm looking at going under on Bam. We'll see if the market agrees with me and see which way this moves by the morning time. But I expect this to be probably closer to 34.5 on most books, the way it is here on FanDuel. Looking at this Celtics and Memphis game, we do have a crucial questionable tag on Jaylen Brown, so really can't get too much down for the Celtics right now until we know more about that. But I do think no matter what, we've got to go to what is the wagon, quarter one points, Kristaps Porzingis. If this is at 6.5, maybe we stay away. I love this at 5.5. If we can still get 5.5 tomorrow on quarter one points for Kristaps, we got to go with it. I mean, look at what he's done since he came back from injury here in, where was it? It was basically at the end of January, right? So he played only a few minutes in this one, and then we come back and he starts going absolutely ballistic since he got hurt, right? So the last 23 games is actually about 26 games, I believe, since he came back from injury. And in those 26 games, we'll give him a little break in this first quarter. He only played 5 minutes in his first game back from injury. But if you look at him in the last 25 games, over in 2025, 7.6 points per game in the first quarter. The key things that I'm looking for in the first quarter to allow me to feel good about this are the volume of minutes and the volume of attempts. He's at 8.2 minutes per first quarter since he's come back from that injury 25 games ago. And if you look at the field goal attempts as well, these are in a good number for going over on a guy. 4.7 field goal attempts per game, basically 5 field goal attempts per game for him in the first quarter alone. And if you look at the free throw attempts, about 1.2. So he's getting about 5 shots from the field, 1 shot from the free throw line, which usually is going to end up in 1 extra point there. Love it. Love it for him. He's at 7.6 points per game in that time frame. If Jaylen Brown sits, this is an even better bet. If Jaylen Brown is in, that hasn't really stopped him. If you look at him in these games with Jaylen Brown available, he's still at 7 points per game in the last 25 in the first quarter when he's playing with Jaylen Brown. So no worries if JB plays or doesn't play. This is a bet that's safe regardless. But this next one, we kind of need to wait to know if Jaylen Brown's playing to be able to bet on some Jason Tatum stuff. So I'm actually really hoping Jaylen Brown plays, because if he does, then the rebounds and assists are beautiful for Jason Tatum here. 14.5, basically flat, right? Even money, or minus 115 on both sides. Basically the same look on the over and the under here as far as the odds go. But 14.5 rebounds and assists, first of all, wonderful hit rate here over the last bunch of games. But just look at this. If I filter this games with Jaylen Brown, first of all, if we look at the RA, he's at 15.2. Let's actually up this amount of games. If you look at all the games on the season with JB, he's played, 53 with him, averaging 15.3 RA per game. He gets more rebounds and assists per game with Jaylen Brown than without him, in part because he's not doing nearly as much of the scoring when Jaylen Brown is out there. He has other guys that he trusts. If you look at the points with JB on the season, those are lower than when he plays without Jaylen Brown, right? Let's do this the opposite way. Let's take Jaylen Brown and put him out. Now look at the points for Jason Tatum. Those are actually more than when he plays with Jaylen Brown, right? 30 points per game. And then if you look at the rebounds and the assists when he's without JB, look at those horrible numbers. The rebounds and assists, the hit rate is gone. He's down to 12.4 rebounds and assists when he's playing without Jaylen Brown, which all makes sense. He's got to focus a lot more on scoring and making sure the ball goes in the bucket, and can do a little bit less focusing on rebounding and assisting, right? So that's going to be a big reason for why Jaylen Brown's impact on Tatum is huge. With him, over on the RA. Without him, might even be an under on the RA. The points, I would love to be able to go over with him. So if Jaylen Brown is out, yes, he's at 30 a game. This makes sense that he would score against Memphis. Problem is Memphis's defense is entirely predicated on stopping the primary ball handler. That's a big reason why, if Brown is out, I love Tatum on the RA against this with this matchup adding to it for Memphis, right? Assists, especially for Tatum with Brown and everybody out there. This is a team that's going to pressure the ball handler. If you come down to the play type stuff, you can see they're giving up points to the pick and roll ball handler, but really it's more about the point guard. It's not necessarily the guys like Jason Tatum who they're going to try to force the ball out of his hands. You can see the isolation stuff, really good at limiting that. And then when it comes to like spot up, very bad at limiting that because he's going to be passing the ball to open shooters after they sort of double team him and try to force the ball out of Jason Tatum's hands. But my point here is I'm not going to be taking a points over even if Jaylen Brown is out. So even if JB sits, I'm not going to be going over on Tatum points. I think I'm going to end up staying away from Tatum if Jaylen Brown plays. So here's to hoping that he doesn't so we can go over on his rebounds and assists combined. That is all the time I have for you guys. Again, if you do want to jump into the VIP and get in there 2 months straight, 50% off, you can get that using code 2days as we got 2 winning days in a row. Looking to make it 3 here, man. But like I said, going to be grateful for these winning ones. But hopefully we will see you guys tomorrow. And until I see you next, happy betting.